Now, happy to welcome back one of the most well-known and respected sports bettors in college football, and Mr. Brad Powers from BradPowerSports.com. You can follow Brad on Twitter at BradPower7. Brad, when we last had you on at the end of June, it was getting warm outside. Well, now it's getting cold, my man. How you doing this fine pre-Halloween week?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, being from the Midwest, I wouldn't consider it to be cold yet, although the mornings have gotten a little chillier here in Vegas. But I love this time of year. It's my favorite month for so many reasons. We're just grinding away. Obviously, we're in week 9. Where's the season gone? Just another day, another dollar, hopefully earned. So we're managing. But good to see you. I know it's Halloween. You always have me on the Halloween show. And I always wonder, I was like, I don't know. Why does he always have me on the Halloween show? Is it because I'm the ugliest creature in sports betting, or what?
Oh God,
I'm joking.
No, it's just that you're the man, and I like having big names on my Halloween shows. I guess it's fun, and you did a good job. No reason. I like continuity, I guess. No, you are certainly, your bets are certainly not the scariest, and that's don't think of it like that. And it's just a fun time of year for me. You know, it's funny. I didn't like the holidays as much when I was younger. I guess more teenage, and then I get married and have kids, and I kind of like it again. I'm totally into it, decorating and stuff. So I'm having a good time with Halloween. I thought you said this was your favorite holiday. Didn't you say that?
Oh yeah. It's by far my favorite holiday. No question. Been that way since I was a kid. Always liked Halloween for some odd reason.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's because I could put a mask on this ugly mug of mine and cover it up. God. No, I don't know. I like scaring people. I don't know. I always like the Halloween type movies, the slasher films and whatnot. I love the smell of like Halloween, especially back, in the Midwest. I don't know, the leaves and stuff. There's just a certain smells like football. Obviously, I love football. I don't know. It's just the perfect month. It's my birthday month too, and I'm not a big birthday guy. It's just everything says October for me just lines up. I'm not an astrology guy, but everything lines up for this month. It's by far, it's not even close to my favorite month of the year.
That's true, and that's another reason why I love having you back. It's the ambiance, like you said. I'm from the Midwest too. It is not cold for me, but I guess when I say that, I'm speaking for the whole nation and whoever else is listening around the world. But it's a fun month, and here we are, and we have some big games, and weather is changing, not necessarily this week, but people should definitely look out for that as well. But before we get into obviously the picks and everything, I always like to have some content because we're a content show first and the pick show second. But I want to ask you about the market a little bit, like getting into what you've always done. And things have happened. We've discussed it before about how books are getting lines out quicker. But I'm curious, from like right now, you're a man that likes to hit the earliest lines out there released by the books that originate their own numbers anyway, until guys like you in the market massage them. Has anything changed over the past year? What have you noticed when these numbers come out, maybe more books, or how these markets are established?
That's a good question. Yeah, it has certainly changed, specifically probably this year more than any year in recent memory. Number one, the results haven't been great for me personally, even though I'm getting more. My portfolio, at least on paper, looks good. I'm getting more CLV than ever before, but for some odd reason, this year it's just not working out, betting heavy volume. So we'll see if it turns the last 4 or 5 weeks of the regular season. If not, we're going to have to make some massive adjustments heading into next year. Some of the changes, just market-wide, not even me specific, is, Circa's the opener here as far as every side in total every week in college football. Difference for them is they're just not Las Vegas. They're opening up these games in multiple states all at once. So there is a much more competitive market betting openers. I'm guessing there's dozens, if not hundreds, more people betting into these on Sunday mornings than what there was a couple of years ago. So, I mean, you got to get down as quickly as possible. I try to make about 50 bets in 15 minutes. And even then, I'm not even getting to half the stuff that I want to get to. It's gone off of 1 or 2 bets. It's just gone. I'm just not getting there in time. So that's a difference. The other difference is other books are trying to beat Circa to the punch, especially this time of year. Maybe not the first few weeks of the season, but now FanDuel and the DraftKings of the world, they are releasing a lot of games a couple hours before Circa on a Sunday morning. So it doesn't matter if it's the midweek MAC games or Conference USA games or the big games. They're getting aggressive with some of their releases. Unfortunately, There's no FanDuel or DraftKings here in the state of Nevada, so it requires me to, get on the phone and say, "Hey, can you help me out here? Let's get down. This number's off." So that's a little bit different than years past, but I would say overall much more competitive market, and it just besides the openers, market entry and market influence would be my two biggest things, not only by me, but my peers as well. There's a lot more different groups in this market. They are entering the market at different times than ever before. A lot of people, I mean, nobody's waiting for anybody anymore. I don't care who you are. There's a group out of Chicago that's betting totals during Monday Night Football. They're hitting like 15 totals a week. You never saw the totals market really move until Tuesdays. No, that's done now. So
Oh
they're
God,
moving
yeah.
on weather totals on Monday. Nobody's waiting for any of that. So it's a much more competitive market. I don't know. I mean, what would it change? It seems like it changes yearly. I don't know. I mean, every time I hear about some amazing up and coming group, they're here today, gone tomorrow. So I mean, who knows if they're even in the market next year?
That's true. And it's obviously FanDuel now is beating DraftKings. I use both. And it is important to get those lines early. I can't believe how FanDuel get up on Sunday mornings when I'm doing my power ratings. I'm trying to hurry because FanDuel's got numbers up. I'm like, geez, got to
Yeah,
get through this. And
they got
it's
next week's MAC games up already. I noticed last night.
you got to give them credit for that. That's what we
Yeah,
like. It's crazy. But once in a while, I'll bet a look ahead in the NFL. The only time I've done it in college is games of the year and just future lines. Now they had lines up in a ton of games. It's just it's a lot to keep track of, but I like it, and I think it's moving. It's bringing in business because guys like you, myself, and other people try to preach you got to get in early and get out early too. There's a lot of different ways to make money in sports betting, and obviously hedge your bets. And it's the days of membership more than getting the lines when you do. If you don't move it that much, you want to send it out as quick as possible. And I think a lot of the sharper people are doing that, Brad.
no question. The issue for some people that want to get down a hell of a lot is the market's getting shaped a lot earlier in the week. So I'm also not only am I betting more games, but I'm also starting to scale up a little bit as far as the overall amount bet. So you can only get so much down on an opener compared to you're waiting till later in the week on a Thursday when the limits start opening up. So there's always that balance you gotta ask yourself. But man, I gotta tell you, I'm still in the thought process. Just get the best number that you can, and Circa still has decent limits on the opener. So I'm still just get the best absolute number. When you feel comfortable to make a bet, you make that bet. Don't listen to anybody else about market entry, when you should bet, when you should not bet. Do you? If not, are they paying your bills? No. Okay. Then you do you, and you make your bets when you feel accordingly.
All right. Well, I agree. 100% agreement there. You get in, take care of yourself first, then worry about everything else later. 100%. Let's. I'm going to ask you real quick about bull season. That's not here, but a month and a half, we're starting to get into bull season. I'm starting to think, with all the noise go out, Caleb Williams should stop right now and all that. It makes me think there's going to even be more people holding out during bull season. Brad, what's your opinion on that? I would say yes, and could be very interesting in a different way we're handicapping, or maybe more the same way we're handicapping, I guess, for guys that get ahead of it coming into December.
Yeah, I think more and more. I mean, until they start literally paying people to play in bowl games. Like, you want to play, your star player, here's an extra couple $100,000 to play in the bowl game, which I think they probably should be doing at this point. You're going to see more and more people to sit out. So how do you guess? Well, it's easy. Just look at the draft boards. I mean, and I don't even talk about the first round guys, the top 20 or 30 guys. I'd look at anybody in the first that's projected to go in the first 3 rounds. Yeah. I would assume the absolute, negative. He's not going to play. He's not going to play. He's not going to play. So, I mean, you just pick that. And then you go from there. Right? And then, I mean, obviously your lower level teams, are they excited to be in a bowl game? Are they not? Where are they going? Are they going to El Paso? Nothing against El Paso, but it's different than Miami, at least in the thought process of a lot of people's minds. So it comes down to motivation. And I have told people, hey, it's tough to quantify motivation. Now you can quantify it. If you're not motivated to play in a bowl game, you just don't play. You sit out the bowl game. So, I actually think this is the one area where, man, if you can get out in front of it, bowl games, if you can guess accordingly, is easier to beat than ever before because
Yeah,
you be playing with half a team.
I think so too. And we're going to get on top of that nice and early. And that's another reason why, people, when it comes to staleness, you get ahead of it early, and then a lot of times things get announced right before the game happens too. So it really is going to change these markets. So be very careful and make sure you're following the right people. And I also think, like you said, getting paid, maybe the NIL deals should be tied to a number of games. I mean, Caleb Williams got what, you make 5 million, some sort of big number. And if I'm paying him money, I'm saying you have to play or at least be in. Now, of course, you can fake an injury, and that just gets even more into the weeds. But I'm signing an NIL deal to say I want my doctor giving you a physical, following you around a little bit if you're going to be playing that card, because my NIL deals is going to be tiered to you playing on a January 1st bowl or late Christmas week bowl. We've got plenty of guys watching it then as well. So that'd be my thoughts. But it's going to get there, Brad. I just think it's not there yet. And I think maybe the 12-team playoff hopefully will maybe fix some of that when it comes next year as well. Being in the Halloween spirit, I'm going to ask you about, and I've been asking this every week. I think it's a great question. Give me an undervalued team that might give us a good trick or treat for the upcoming weeks. It could be a line you like this week, whatever you think. But like, I gave out Arizona about a month ago.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, of course I didn't bet on them though, like an idiot. I finally did when their lines came out this week, but I gave it out, and I'm not even going to go there. But give us one that could be good, and it could be one that's a little undervalued.
Yeah, undervalued, little treat team. Not necessarily. I think there's a tremendous amount of value at the current number this week, but I think it's a team that might be a play on team down the stretch. It's San Jose State, a team that played a very difficult schedule to start the season. We're talking at USC, at Oregon State. They played the top level teams as far as the Mountain West. The Boise State's the Air Force of the world. They were at Toledo. Toledo's probably going to win the MAC, or at least one of the better Group of 5 teams out there in the country. So they started 1-5. As you've seen them the last couple of weeks, play down in class. They have dominated their Mountain West opponents the last couple of weeks. Utah State, New Mexico. They got Hawaii this week. I think they can get a comfortable win this week against Hawaii. This is a team with a very good quarterback in Cordero, one of the better players in the Mountain West. I think it's a team that's going to be fighting for bowl eligibility, which is saying something considering they started the season 1-5.
Wow, there you go. That's awesome. I'm kind of looking towards the total in that game, maybe towards the over. I think they're putting up some points, and they're really starting to figure it out. They shocked me last week. They beat me. I was on Utah State last week, one of my few losses.
A lot of people were.
Yeah. Good number and everything. And, I was wondering myself, is this more about Utah State or them? And they started out great against Boise State. They let Boise back in very strangely, but they got a very powerful offense, and that one that needs to be certainly considered. So total agreement with that one. For me, gosh, I do this every week, and I always have to find a different one. I mean, I'm going to go with just NC State. And here's the thing. I like Duran, and now that they had their bye, they have the quarterback that should be able to fix this a little bit, and he should be a little bit fixed. I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to be a massive ATS team. Maybe they will. I kind of like them this week, but I think they're going to be a little undervalued. You might be able to catch some lines on them, coming through the next month or so. I think that they are trying to make a bowl game too, and I'm going to go with NC State, Brad.
I'm in a holding pattern. Ask me after this. I've got to see him this week against the Clemson program that's teetering right now. So that's a game a little bit off the beaten path that's going to tell us a lot down the stretch about both teams, because they both need a win, or they both need to show a good performance this week. And NC State typically has been very tough out when they're playing at home. So we'll see. MJ Morris at quarterback. They made the switch. Mixed results so far. Need him to clean up the turnovers. Defense I do like. They've been consistently good. So we'll see. Ask me. I got to see him against Clemson this week.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks for the honesty there. Let's talk about a team now that's too scary to bet on this Halloween season, and that might be a good fade for the upcoming few weeks.
I'm gonna give you two because the one team that immediately came to mind doesn't play this week. San Diego State. I think that was a program-altering loss last week to Nevada. Double-digit favorite. You got beat 6-0 at home against Nevada team that was winless on the season. You look at the rest of their schedule. I could paint a picture where San Diego State doesn't win another game. Brady Hoke's fired. So I'm serious. I don't like what I see from them. The defense has regressed. They made a change at offensive play caller. Hasn't worked out for them. And you look at the rest of their schedule, it's pretty difficult. I think Utah State beats them. That'll be a game. You're going to have to beat me to the punch when they open up those lines next Sunday morning. I like Utah State there at San Diego State. So we'll see on that one. But they don't play this week. So if you want to take advantage of a team, I don't know if it's the greatest spot to fade them this week, but I'm telling you, I'm going to be lining up to play against this team because they have been so fortunate. And it's the BYU Cougars, who this week are facing their third straight backup quarterback. So they're playing Texas this week. I kind of still lean towards Texas. I don't think the drop off. I think Texas really rallies here. BYU probably shouldn't have beaten Cincinnati if you looked at the box score. They weren't that impressive. Again, a backup quarterback against TCU to get blown out. Backup quarterback against Texas Tech last week. They were +5 in turnovers. BYU lost the box score again. This is a team that sitting here at 5 wins. They could be waiting a while to get the bowl eligibility. I like to fade BYU here down the stretch.
I love fading BYU here, and I was on them last week against the backup quarterbacks in a night game in Provo, which is a place where they only excel. And I agree. I have Texas as a maybe right now, and I don't care which quarterback's playing for Texas. I almost think it's a way they can kind of recharge themselves after a really ugly game against Houston. So they're one of my maybes so far on my card coming up for this week. But unfortunately, BYU is the one that I was going to say. So now I'm going to have to go to somewhere else.
I'm sorry.
No. I think it's great. We align on that. But I'm going to say Coastal Carolina. I know they're a dog this week, and it's because Grayson McCall is banged up. But, man, that hit that he took was really scary. And his ankle's not good. A little concussion action. I don't see him playing this week against Marshall, but even with that, this has been a total disaster for Coastal Carolina. They have absolutely no defense. I saw Georgia State whip them up. I think they finally got that big program win that they needed just recently. So I don't like Coastal going forward with the new coach, and I'm more in the fade zone over the next few weeks, and even at Old Dominion on November 4th, Brad.
Yeah, you know what's scary? That hire they made, Tim Beck. What a downgrade from Jamie Chadwell to Tim Beck. I could show you what happened. A program like that can change overnight to the bad or the good. In this case, it'll be to the bad, especially after McCall finally exhausts his eligibility at the end of this season. They did get a couple recent wins. I thought the buy sign might have started going on, but then what happens every year? Grayson McCall gets hurt, unfortunately. So yeah, I don't see him winning this week. I got Marshall in pocket. I'm not sure it's going to be close even, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Marshall's in a good spot after that loss. So I think I'm kind of like a Marshall in this spot. And 9-20 against a great James Madison team. Not a terrible score, in my opinion. I think James Madison is the most scariest team. If you want to talk scary, if you're a par five.
You know what's scary is they're not eligible for anything. This could be a 12-0 team and not play for anything.
I do a good, the bad, and the ugly, and that was my ugly, that they're not in that situation. It's BS. And yeah, and they're also a reason why I made a bet on this division, and we'll get into that a little bit later in this show, going to a certain game. But no, that's great. I think it's always great to talk about teams that are a little undervalued and overvalued, but let's talk about some big games coming up this weekend, Brad. We pick 3 apiece, and then we'll do a little random at the end if we need to with our best bets as well. I'm going to start with one of the games you picked, USC versus Cal. I see 10.5 here on our Betfred Sports odds screen with a total of about 67.5. Pretty big total. What you got going on for this one, bud?
Yeah, I actually lean towards the Cal side. A multitude of reasons. Number one, Cal got a nice little reset bye at this point in the season. USC, meanwhile, playing 6th straight week. And after 2 physical games against Notre Dame and Utah, wondering how much is left in the gas tank. Apparently not much as far as Lincoln Riley. He can't make practice. He's sick. It'll be interesting to see if he's going to even be there on Saturday. I'm hearing whispers that he might not be able to make this week's game. So then you got to ask who's the play caller, because he does call the offensive plays. Maybe it's a Cliff Kingsbury that they can promote from analyst role to call plays, but I'm not buying it. And I think a lot of these Pac-12 teams are smelling blood now down the stretch. And keep in mind, this is it, the final hurrah here. Last time Cal's going to be probably hosting USC for quite some time, so they should be pretty fired up here coming off a bye. I like Cal, even though the market says I'm an idiot and they're betting USC.
It's a plus 11 here too, and whenever a team has a second loss like this, knocking them out of championship contention, it affects these kids, and it could go two ways. They could still come back and show them who they are. They're thinking they're playing for bigger
Look at
things.
those tabs! My goodness, my man, 25 tabs. I love that. I thought I was the only one that had that. And I'll tell you what, some of them tabs look very similar to mine, to be honest with you. So I like that.
Thank you, Brad. But another thing, it was at 60 before, and I have about 40 on this screen. The other one, that's the way I roll, and I had to take it down because I want my computer crashing during the show. But I do appreciate you giving me a shout out. Yeah, a lot of the same tabs, and I think we go to a lot of the same great places, and that's important. So thank you. I don't know how people don't handicap with a lot of tabs personally,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you noticing that. But yeah, it's hard, but you know what? I know exactly where to go when I'm going. I'm used to it, and I have them in a certain order that I like when I bring them all up. So that's the way we roll. But no, I lean to Cal as well. Hard to see what you're going to get from USC coming up this week, and let's face it, their schedule is very easy until they face Notre Dame. Cal's defense is bad, though. It ranks at 222nd in defensive success rate, 116th in opponent yards per pass. I mean, that worries you against a Caleb Williams-led team, but, Cal has had some spirited performances against Oregon State, against Auburn, against ASU is really close. I call those spirited performances in our Halloween week coming in, and maybe the spirits are on our side here. I unfortunately have USC by 12 via the numbers, but man, I can see some public money driving this up a little bit, and I'm going to wait this out, see what happens. Maybe we can get on it late. So totally agree.
I think if Lincoln Riley's out, it's likely to close 10 or less.
All right. So maybe that, how sick is he? Is it COVID? I mean, what could
I'm hearing whispers is COVID. With what's going on, if you follow Lincoln Riley, doesn't handle outside pressures tremendously well. You got to start. This is a guy who's talking retirement this summer. He's talking about retiring early and not wanting to be, coaching when he's 60 and whatnot. Not saying he's going to retire now, but for you to even consider that is saying something at this point. He's 40 years old. So I don't know. He has been. I watched a lot of his press conferences. He has been under the weather the last couple of weeks. So maybe there is something or maybe the pressure's getting to him, because this season's a failure, and it could get. You want to talk about scary? Look at who they play coming down the stretch. They still got Washington. They still got Oregon. They still got UCLA. This could turn easily into a 4 or 5 loss season, which be, an utter failure.
Well, it's funny. Retirement doesn't mean he's not going to get into broadcasting or obviously get into being the analyst on the Foxes, which would be Big Ten, right? CBS, ESPNs, stations like that, and he'll get over $1 million a year there, that just because of his name. And, if you have a bad finish, you're not going to be as high in demand. I think, that's what you might want to do.
Make the jump to the NFL. Cause that would be my biggest concern right now, because I don't know if the Star is going to be that bright after this season, and definitely not after next season. If you looked at their schedule, they play LSU, they play Notre Dame, they jump to the Big Ten, they're playing Michigan, they're playing Washington, Oregon, Ohio State. They could be, with no Caleb Williams, could be a 6-6 team next year.
Oh God, that's just disastrous. Yeah, Tampa Bay maybe fix Baker Mayfield or something, right? It's a couple teams that would be an interesting situation for him. I just say, get a real defensive coordinator for once and start focusing on that, my man. But yeah, totally interesting spot for USC here. It's only fade, in my opinion. Great stuff. Let's move on to a next game. I picked this one, Georgia State versus Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern's about a 1.5 point favorite. The total is 64. This is a much bigger game than people think, because it's really going to determine, I think, the Sun Belt East, unless something crazy happens. But Georgia Southern has an easy finish after this because they avoid James Madison, they avoid South Alabama and Troy. Those are the three teams that are the best in the Sun Belt. But unfortunately, James Madison, as you said, can't do it. They can't make the championship. And South Alabama and Troy are in the same West Division. So it's Georgia State. And that's why I did take them 12-1 because of James Madison to win just that side of the division, not even the whole Sun Belt. So I got something riding on this already in a way. But I guess App State, they're 1-2 right now. I mean, they could creep up. I just don't think App State's really that good this year. No. The big question for this game is if Georgia State can stop the pass. Southern passes the ball 62% of the time, ranking 21st and third in the nation, really, at passing the ball, at least attempts, 21st in success rate, which is good. Georgia State's weakness is a little bit against the pass, 94th in opponent passing success rate. But on the other hand, Georgia Southern ranks 108th in defensive explosiveness, while Georgia State, they rank 19th in explosiveness. They actually can have some pretty good plays with Darren Granger. He uses his legs when he needs to, and he somehow converts these first downs. I was on them versus Coastal Carolina, and he was just pounding down the field, and they got past Louisiana last week. And I just thought that, this is going to makes it the great game, and there's issues on each side of the ball. I actually lean to the over 64. It's a very high number, but man, both teams top 47 in tempo. Georgia State does have the better defense. What's funny about Georgia State is they're actually showing numbers wise better on the road than they are at home.
Yeah.
But I mean, for this division, this is a massive game, Brad. And unfortunately, Georgia State has to play James Madison. So they got to get this win to get the nod over Georgia Southern. Any thoughts on this one?
I've not gotten involved, but I agree with your sentiments that this is one of the bigger group of 5 games of the entire weekend. Winner, to me, has the inside track to capture that division. Obviously, with the James Madison not being eligible, it's a rivalry game. I don't think people understand it's a pretty important rivalry in that neck of the woods. I've been impressed with both teams. I think Clay Helton's done a tremendous job in this couple of years at Georgia Southern, transitioning that team away from the option to a heavy pass attack team. Like overnight, transfer portal certainly helped in that regard. Getting a couple of experienced quarterbacks the last couple of years there. Georgia State's been super impressive. You mentioned on the road that short week, they got experience going short week. They did it already this year, going on the road and really handling Coastal Carolina from start to finish in that game. And then, the market was kind of against them last week, and they go on the road and handle a pretty decent West Division team in Louisiana. So they should feel confident. They go on the road and do it again. Not the greatest spot, I think, like back-to-back road against quality teams, short rest, but a game I'll be watching. I don't know if I'll be necessarily involved, side or total, though. So I don't disagree with your pick there.
All right. Well, hey, it's going to be an exciting one, too, and I'll be watching it as well. Unless some sort of blowout starts happening, then maybe I'll be just switching back to it. But it'll be on one of the TVs. Definitely plan on that.
What's your TV setup? How many TVs you got?
I have, okay, so this gets technical because there's multiple rooms here. I have a bar behind, like a large bar table with bar seats behind my big couch. I have an 85-inch TV in front. Then I have a picture TV, 65-inch on the right that scrolls through our family photos, but I'll have the game on, of course, via ESPN streaming a game there. I have my iPad right next to me streaming another game. And if I look to the right, I have a 75-inch, about 20 yards away, which is big enough to see. And if my kids aren't playing PlayStation 5, I will certainly have that game on and be watching another game in that situation. So that's my setup, Brad. What do you do?
Yeah, I wish I had an 85. I got a 75, 432s. So big one in the middle, and then corner. For the other 432s. It's funny. I'm old enough where a 32-inch was the family. That was the family TV. Was a 32-inch. It was big enough. That was big. It looks nothing now. And then I got probably 4 or 5 other monitors up between my 2 Macs, my iPad, and some other stuff. So about 10 screens total.
That's amazing. That's better than me. Last stream, and Brad must have a pretty good connection at his house to be doing all that. That's awesome.
Believe it or not, I still have cable. I'm a dinosaur. I can't trust the streaming. I have no patience whatsoever. Anytime a game starts, you wouldn't believe. I mean, I already have high blood pressure. I can't get any more. So I still have So people I took pictures last year because I got the recent setup last year. Everyone cord shamed me because I got cable cords and everything. I don't care. I don't need to hide everything. I really don't care. Nobody's coming over to my place. I mean, I don't have company every night. So yeah, I still have the old I didn't cut the cords yet. So I don't stream.
I've never been cord shamed, but I've been shamed about worse things probably in my life. I guess walking in the dark in your house might be a little dangerous, might fall on your face. But you know, maybe you just kind of have it. It's like 5 steps this way, turn to the left. I'll miss this cord. You probably have it down to a science. So that's awesome. I don't care how many cords you have, man. You live by yourself. You're in a man pad, a bachelor pad, so you have nothing to worry about. No complaints. Now, I wish I had your setup, but I would get a few complaints from the peanut gallery, so I would not be allowed to do that. What's up, Valdez, and what's up to Sean? I know the weather is beautiful in El Paso. You mentioned a while ago. So,
have you ever been there? Snowball's nice, really nice.
I've never been to El Paso. It's not far from me, but I heard that it's sunnier there than even Phoenix. I'm in Chandler actually, but I heard it's sunnier even there more times a year, which is hard to believe. We have sun probably close to 300 days a year. So that's pretty amazing. No, I like to go to a bowl game there. It's Sun Bowl, right? So I'd like to check that out one of these days. Let's move on to another game, Brad. And you just can't stay away from Notre Dame. I think you picked one last year, and your love-hate school, my man. There is a thin line between love and hate. I totally understand that. Being a Bears fan and a Badger fan, I have plenty of my own problems, but you know, Notre Dame, here we are. It's Pitt. I wrote 20.5. I'm going to check my odds screen here to see if it's still at that number here. 20.5 on Betfred. That's correct. Total is 44.5. Brad, what do you have for this one?
I'm on Pitt. I'm not sure Notre Dame get margin with their offense that they've tried out in recent weeks, and it looks good. The 48-point total against USC, but it came on less than 300 yards of offense. It was mainly due to the 5 turnover advantage and plus a kick return touchdown. So one of the more misleading final box scores of the entire college football season. Prior to that, the offense had struggled, obviously against decent defenses, but I mean, only 20 against Louisville. That's not a great defense. Obviously, Duke and Ohio State shut them down. And then, you know, obviously I follow the program quite well. Pitt, it doesn't matter if it's Lou Holtz or Brian Kelly or Charlie Weiss. Pitt historically gives Notre Dame problems year after year after year. And Notre Dame in the last 15 matchups has only beat Pitt by this margin twice. Pitt for me in a low scoring game. I think Pitt, the quarterback change has helped them. And I always ask this, change one play, one call in a game. What's the line? There was a horrific call in the Pitt game last week. Otherwise, Pitt would be coming into this game on a two-game winning streak. The quarterback sliding, to me, my eye test said that he got beyond the line before he slid. And all of a sudden, they got a punt. Wake Forest goes down and scores a touchdown. If Pitt wins that game, what's this line? Is it 20.5? I don't think it is. So give me Pitt. I think there's value there.
Very interesting. And I like the handicap because there's a certain there's a way you have to look at this game. You know, Pitt with Jurkovic, he has not been able to put it in, and that's huge. It affects a lot of stats. You're not scoring a lot of points, yet their defense kind of still shows like they can hang around a little bit. And that's the whole thing. It's like, can you use your metrics when there's a bad quarterback going to a good one? We don't know if Vallejo's good yet, but I mean, it certainly throws a wrench into some things. I think Jurkovic, everyone was wrong about him. He started at Notre Dame, then he goes to Boston College. You know, he gets hurt, and everyone was on Boston College that year. And you know, it's just one of those situations where you think he's going to come back, and he has just been bad. You know, it's funny. I wonder if the public's going to say, well, Pitt beat Louisville and Notre Dame lost to Louisville, bet Pitt. I hope they're not looking at it that way. That would be a terrible way to look at it. But at the same time, you know, last week I was on Wake and it was just a spot play and I should have lost that one. But, you know, it was just one of those, that's what happens in college football type weeks. And it was just an amazing, crazy finish. Probably some bad calls in that as well. I'm usually on the wrong side of that one, by the way. But It's Pittsburgh's got a rivalry here. Their defense ranks 25th in success rate, 25th in opponent yards per play. It's their offense that's failed them. But now that you have the new quarterback, throw those offensive stats out. You know, the red zone was 121st in red zone TVs, 121st. If you can just score a few of those, you're in this game. Yeah, they're coming off a loss, an ugly loss. Pitt's coming off a bye. I mean, sorry, Notre Dame's coming off a bye, but my numbers, even though they would say Notre Dame minus 22, 23, I can see this definitely be covered if Pitt can get that ball in a little bit. So I have no play in it. This thing gets past 21-ish. I might be a buyer, Brad.
Yeah. Narduzzi's good for one or two of these a year. And he'll turn around and lose. I mean, as a favorite then the very next week. But usually his types of teams get up for stuff like this.
They do. Absolutely. 100%. Well, if you want to talk about fandom, I think I picked a game for me here. The next one here. Ohio State play my Badgers. Badgers are 14.5 point dogs at home. The total is 43.5. I'm going to do something a little bit against my character as well, because usually I'm a fader when it comes to Wisconsin. I think I was right to say their win total should be 7.5 or 8 games. A lot of people loved them before the season started. They have some issues now, obviously, with quarterback, but it's funny. You look at the spread and you look at the total. It's 43.5. It's a freaking big total for a home dog at a night game, you know. If Ohio State has a flat spot this year, I mean, where would you have circled it?
Right, this one, yeah.
I think it is this one, because next week at Rutgers, you know, they're playing against one of their ex-coaches. At least that one was there for a little while, and defense coordinator. You know, so they lost Tanner Mordecai, but I like what Braden Locke did last week at the end of that Illinois game. He was a good recruit going into Mississippi State. Nice transfer for the Badgers, I thought. I think he saw opportunity there that he can be a starter in a year or two, and getting away from Alabama and LSU, probably not the worst decision. What the heck? And you have to go into an offensive favoring place, and he had some really nice dimes that he threw. Ohio State's got the 2.1 net yard per play advantage over the Badgers, and that's why you're seeing such a big spread here. And it's just Ohio State, but if like you said, if there's a flat spot, it's right here. And I remember in 2010, Ohio State was ranked number 1. Wisconsin on a night game beat them at home. And that was a fun game. And I was at a wedding that day, and I told my friend to never get married again and he ended up getting divorced. So there you go.
Remember that game well, 31-18. Terrell Pryor, quarterback for the Buckeyes, couple big runs. They're rolling that night.
Oh yeah, it was a total massive, just big thing for Wisconsin. Everyone was happy that week. But they play Penn State. They got a little fortunate with that call, and they outplay Penn State too. Don't get me wrong. I think they technically should have won that game anyway. I'm not sure what happens if Penn State gets that touchdown, but I think Ohio State probably comes back and wins by 3 or so. But
I don't know.
Okay, so there you go. I'm just looking at the fact that Penn State can convert a third down at the second half.
True. Good point.
That's what I was looking at. I mean, and it's a momentum sport, and it does change momentum. So there you go. We have no idea, let's just say. But if there is something you can kind of take that might be benefiting Wisconsin, the rushing offense does rank 10th in the success rate. Brandon Allen is going to the NFL. He's a stud. He's big. He's strong. Ohio State, they're really good against the run at 3 yards per rush, but I thought that Penn State was able to run the ball a little bit against them in the first half. And the Badgers ranked 26 in sack margin +8. Maybe they can get to McCord a little bit. He's been gotten to that little bit with some blitzes, draw a few different out, rattle a little bit, flat spot night game, loud Camp Randall crowd. He might not have the time for those crossing routes to Marvin Harrison. He might not have the time for that. I mean, this could be the stinker of this. Yeah, I just think 14.5 is too much points in the situation. I think, my power rings have this probably close to 14, but I'm going to give Wisconsin a couple extra bumps for the spot, the night game. I'm going to make this 11. Buckeyes by 11. I'll take 14.5 with Wisconsin for 2.5 stars, Brad.
There you go. Wow. I didn't bet it. At least this week I didn't. I bet it back in the summer. I won't mention what I got. Because nobody cares. I think a lot of what you brought up is true. In fact, Kyle McCord to me is still very shaky. And when I said that I'm not sure that they would have, beaten Penn State. Is, man, did you see his eyes after that play? I mean, he was like almost visibly shaken after that, possible score for Penn State. It helps that he has Marvin Harrison, but a lot of times he still can't even get him the ball on the slant routes. I'm not sure that Ryan Day fully trusts him. You're talking about, they had the ball right before the half. They decided to take a knee. That's not Ohio State football. Ryan Day's not doing that with CJ Stroud at quarterback. However, I'm always about change one play. Well, what's the narrative? Change, does the point spread change? I go back to the Wisconsin-Illinois game last week. Illinois is up 21-7. And Newton, the defensive lineman, smashes the Wisconsin quarterback, lock fumbles on the play. Goes to the booth. It's targeting on Newton, a first-team All-American type defensive lineman for Illinois. And instead of Illinois having the ball in the red zone, already up 2 scores on Wisconsin. Wisconsin gets the targeting. Newton gets thrown out of the game. Wisconsin starts getting some drives. They end up scoring their last 3 drives of the game. So big momentum shift there. That doesn't happen. Oof, I don't know. I mean, what's the thought process on Wisconsin? Then it's probably not good.
Well, then it's 17.5 and you take Wisconsin again.
There you go. Good point. I don't see a pathway for a lot of success for Wisconsin's offense. So that's what kept me off of it. I do see a pathway for Wisconsin's defense, especially if they can turn McCord over a few times. I know he's only thrown 1 pick, but I'm telling you, he's had a lot of turnover worthy plays. I mean, the Penn State game, the Notre Dame game, what's the narrative if the Notre Dame defensive back doesn't drop the interception at the end? We're thinking about Ohio State differently right now offensively. So,
completely. Or if they had 11 guys on the field at the end.
Yeah. I mean, even with 10 guys on the field, he just reached out and got the touchdown by an inch. I mean, come on, folks. That's why I'm big on that. So I'm not going to disagree with you. I think if there's a side to take, I'd probably be more on the Wisconsin side. I can't get there on them. They need to show a little bit more offensively for me. Maybe they gained a hell of a lot of confidence in that 4th quarter. It looks like Fickle believes that. I mean, if you read his comments this week, he thinks he saw something out of his team in that 4th quarter.
Fickle's a great coach. Used to be with the Buckeyes years ago.
He'll be motivated.
He'll be very motivated, and it's a spot play. It's really is a spot play. Sometimes you can throw out numbers and it's a situation. So I'm usually not a Badger backer. I'm more like you, pessimistic when it comes to my teams. But I'm going to finally back them, and maybe I'll pay for it. But I'm trying to look at it just from a spot and not as a fan. So we'll see what happens. And it's not a large play; it's a medium play. 2.5 stars for me. Units, whatever you want to say. Stars are units. Oregon versus Utah. Utah plus 6.5. Total is 48. Brad, you picked this one. I'm wondering if there's a play coming afterwards.
You know what? I'm on the Oregon side on this one. Let's just look at yards per play net. Utah 0.0. Blue Tarski's grade point average. I know it's a 40-year-old movie reference, but if you're older, you would know. 0.0 yards per play, so dead even. Oregon's plus 3.1. Usually when you see a difference like that, you're dealing with a point spread above 3 touchdowns, not less than a touchdown. I know it's scary to lay points in Salt Lake City. I still wonder if Utah's offense can keep pace here. Now, they've shown some things the last couple of weeks. They converted a safety to running back and kind of slot receiver in Sione Vaki. He's given them some explosives out of the offense last couple of weeks. You're not playing USC's defense this week. Oregon's a little bit better. I just think Oregon's been there, done that. Obviously, with already a loss, they have some urgency, just like Utah. I'm leaning towards the Oregon side here. Is what I bet anything under a touchdown.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna have a little disagreement. That's good. I love having some disagreement as long as obviously we both agree on most stuff. We're all right. It's going to be a great game. Probably an underrated game. Utah, you could say, could be in a letdown spot, but they're at home. It was a big win against USC, and it came very close at the end. But I think the fact that they finally announced Cam Rising's not coming back, maybe the team knew that. I think it's just it's almost a calming situation for them. It's like we are who we are. This is how we play. Bryson Barnes and Nate Johnson keep on trucking, right? The matchup to watch is Oregon's number 2 passing offense versus Utah's number 2 passing defense and success rate. That's really going to dictate what's going to happen if this spread's going to be covered. I think Utah can slow the Ducks offense down, but Oregon's crutch is against the run, they're 56. Now that's not bad in success rate, but you got quarterbacks running now and you have a Utah, they're going to slow this game down. And that's why you see a total of 48. They're going to try to slow this thing to a crawl. And I agree with that. Now here's the thing, the public power ratings and most power ratings have Oregon by 7, even the respected ones that I like as well. I'm not quite there. I'm between 3 and 7. But it's the handicap is something that's really gets missed, in my opinion, in a lot of shows, is the home road splits. And Bo Nix on the road has not been good. And Danny Lanning as a coach on the road has not been good, especially against Washington. Oregon has a 3.0 net yards per play, but that number goes to 1.6 on the road. And they played a weaker defense in Washington. You know, Washington's kind of like the I guess maybe like the Miami Dolphins, a decent defense and great offense. They're a great team. Don't get me wrong, but Oregon should have won that game. But you saw what happens. And Utah is 0 net yards per play, like you said, but it goes up to 0.6 at home. So you have about a 1 point net yard per play, which I call 6 or 7 points. At home, if you give Utah 3 points, 3.5 for home field, then it goes down to like 3.5 point spread, in my opinion. If you just want to do simple math, simple numbers, nothing too advanced. But Utah's schedule, I think it's been harder. Florida,
significantly harder.
Florida, UCLA, USC, Oregon State. While Oregon just played at Washington, like I said, a defense that's a little suspect. And we saw that Washington State was fake news. They were fake news. Sorry. They made some big plays in some big games, and they kind of showed their true face the last few weeks. Since 2012, Utah 42, 28-1 against the spread at home, 60%. I'm not going to be scared. I'm taking Utah, but I grabbed 7. I did grab 7, but I still like it at 6.5 for 2.5 stars. But here we are. It's going to be a fun one.
A lot of disagreement in the market. Saw some early money to get it to 7, buy back at 7. You see a lot of that in the big games, specifically this year. A lot of difference of opinions.
All right. Lots of difference of opinion. All right. So
numbers matter too, folks.
Numbers definitely matter. Definitely. So we picked your 3 games already, right? Did I miss one?
Yep. You got them.
Okay. So let's go to the final game, Georgia versus Florida. Florida plus 14.5, totals 47.5. This game's becoming more interesting because of Brock Bowers, obviously, for Georgia being out. I don't think just Georgia offense is the same without Todd Monken at coordinator and with Carson Beck as quarterback, but it's hard because I'm looking at a former quarterback in Graham Mertz, and I thank God that we're not talking about it as a Badger. I feel the same way about Florida away from home. Now, this is a neutral site, but I just do not know what I'm going to get out of Graham Mertz. I don't. And I still look at Georgia as a team that just had it so easy. They can kind of just pick their spots to plan for. I mean, we say that about Alabama too. I mean, my power number is Georgia minus 15, but I really have low confidence in this game. I have a low confidence level. Nothing really would surprise me too much. I wanted to talk about it because the game was so big, and I can waste time going into all the nuts and bolts about it. But I don't like Georgia without Todd Monken. And I don't like Florida away from home. I was on Kentucky when they played Kentucky just for the home road splits. So I'm going to leave this one alone, but I think the biggest cocktail party, I'll be having a cocktail for that game. So any thoughts on this one, bud?
Yeah, I'm in a similar situation. Not a high value pick, but we're going to learn a lot about both teams. Obviously, Billy Napier's leaves a little bit to be desired so far through his tenure, although he picked up, some big wins against Tennessee and South Carolina, notably here this year already. Obviously, strength of schedule is taking a big step up in class. Georgia's strength of schedule has left a lot to be desired so far this season. So I know Florida's not world beaters, but it's average power rating for Florida is better than the average power rating on what Georgia's faced most of the season. So we'll learn a little bit. We're certainly going to learn how Georgia's going to play the rest of the year without Brock Bowers, at least the rest of the regular season. He's a guy that's going to move the needle as far as a point spread. The very rare situation where a tight end should drop a team's power rating point and a half. But that's how important he is to the pass game. They use him on jet sweeps and whatnot. So I'm anxious to see Georgia's offense without him. I have some concerns on Florida. You mentioned Mertz. I think they protected him very well. They run a lot of motion, pre-snap motion, and he's got a really good safety valve at wide receiver and Ricky Pearsall. And it's not playing Georgia's defense each and every week. So
Right.
I'm anxious to see how aggressive Georgia gets defensively against him. Maybe they put some extra guys in the box and really see if Mertz can beat him over the top. I would question Mertz's ability to do that. And then we'll see Carson Beck. He's played well. He's been fine. He hasn't been an issue for Georgia. We'll see how their game plan. I expect them to be more run heavy without Bowers. Just that they don't have a lot of great receiving threats. So intriguing game. Just because I always tell people, just because it's one of the biggest games of the week doesn't mean it's one of the biggest value bets of the week.
Exactly. I think you said it perfectly. The number's good. We don't know what to expect. Nothing would shock me. Let's stay away from it and just enjoy it. And that's important. I like enjoying games without having to sweat something sometimes. It's the college football fan, and you analyze for the next games too. Maybe you found something that you can find a weakness for something else. So I totally agree with that. Well, let's do like just a little random before we get to our best bets here. Coming into this week here, we did mention Clemson versus NC State. Any thoughts on the 10 on this? The total's 44 to NC State home dog plus 10.
Made it 10. I did bet Clemson early in the week. So 10 is my number on the game. We're going to find, like I mentioned, we're going to find out if Clemson, what they have, because they not only have this game this week, they still have Notre Dame, they still have North Carolina, they still have South Carolina. It could get ugly with a team already with 3 losses, so they better bring something this week.
What's interesting is the way Dabo Swinney coaches it. It's kind of in your face, and if the team's not winning, it can make kids turn on you a little bit.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking this could be another bad situation here for Dabo. It's NC State or nothing coming off the bye. Big spot for them. Weakness has been shown on offense, especially letting that game get into overtime against a backup quarterback in Miami. And
pathetic. Especially when they were leading by 10 in the fourth quarter. Come on. You got to put that one away.
Well, I'm pathetic because I had Miami plus 3.5 or something like that. And then I found out about the quarterback, and I bought back at Clemson, same amount at -3, and here we go. Miami wins outright, and they have to buy back. It's like, one of those. That happens. It happens. Oh man, it's gonna be an interesting game. I have 9 for my number, so it's pretty close to the spread. But I could be an investor a little bit later in NC State. Texas all the way down to -17.5. That looks like a little juice at Betfred here, -115. It's Texas or nothing for me. It's funny. They talk about Manning. He's not playing this year, in my opinion. Do you think Archie Manning plays? Yeah, I don't think so.
Arch's not going to play. It'll be Malik Murphy. Unless Murphy goes out and throws like 5 interceptions, then they might, the cries for Arch will be there. But no, I actually expect Murphy to have success in this one. So Texas for me. Well, let's wait. Market, Barney at the bar is going, the quarterback's out for Texas. We got bet BYU. Let's see if we can get a better number on Texas.
I don't know if Barney at the bar can move it as much, but maybe there's a lot of Barneys out there. Maybe there's a ton of Barneys.
There's more than there used to be with legalization.
That's true. That's true. I think this is one of those, you look at the books, to see where maybe a regional book or something would be a little bit more based, and maybe you'll get your number. That's interesting. It's definitely something to look out for. Duke, Louisville -4. Louisville coming off that ugly loss to Pittsburgh. Now they have 1 loss, and Duke's coming off of a massive choke when they're beating Florida State by 14 points. What about this one?
Yeah, it's all entirely dependent on Riley Leonard. Can he play or not? And if he can play, is he?
Well, why can't he play? He played last week.
I got aggravated the ankle
right.
and didn't finish the game, and that was the 21-0 run out. Was after he left the game. They're driving to go up 10 late third quarter. He gets hurt. They bring the backup in. They go for it on 4th and goal. Don't get it. Florida State goes down the field, scores to go up 24-20, and then it's just a mismatch in the fourth quarter. So it all depends on Leonard. If he gets ruled out, I'm here to tell. If you think he doesn't play, I'm here to tell you should be betting Louisville now, because this number will go to 7.
It will go to 7 for sure. Yeah, Duke is just a very well coached team without the
Oh, they
talent,
are.
and it shows. You take them against anybody that doesn't have the power, and they're probably covering. But Louisville this year has some power and some talent and a very good coach, and now without a quarterback, they can be overpowered. I think in this situation too. So not like Louisville's got 5-star talent or anything like that, but it's just a situation where obviously without the quarterback and season's a little bit messed up. I know you took their under in their season win total. You might still have a shot there, Brad.
Oh no, I'm done. I took Duke. Yeah, I'm fried. There.
What's that? It's 5 wins now? 4 or 5? It's
Yeah,
5, right?
they're 5 wins. I bet. What did I bet? Under 6.5. So they
I
can
thought
only
it's
win
7.
another. I
I
mean,
thought you had,
I think they'll win. I honestly think they're going to win 8. That's how much I think of Elko. I think the team's legit.
Virginia at Miami. Miami laying 19 points, probably with their backup still, but I don't really care. I just think Virginia, it looks like a letdown spot after North Carolina, but at the same time, it's not really because they still need wins. It's not like, I don't know. It's an interesting handicap for it because you would usually see a big win and think it's a letdown spot, but also for a team that's trying to do something. I did see them play James Madison tough, and they got some calls
They
on their
did.
side too. They've got some calls, but I usually bet the dog Virginia in this game in the past. It's 19 points. I take Virginia again, probably. I don't know what my number says. I'll pull it up while you talk about it real quick.
Yeah, tough one. Again, depending on the quarterback. I'm a little bit more optimistic. Tyler Van Dyke could play. Market's kind of leaning, getting closer to that. I would say that he's at least 50-50, if not getting to closer to be probable in this game. I don't know. I will say this in the Virginia game last week. Typically, when you see a 24-point underdog winning outright, why? Turnover, something goofy happened in the game. Wasn't goofy. Better than North Carolina in that game. So maybe that's I hear your point. Might be a buy sign for a second-year coach is really struggling. Then maybe that's a program changer for them. But I'm not interested. I don't like Cristobal. I can tell you that. I don't even like Elliott, to be honest. I don't care if he won last week. I haven't. The first 20 games of his career has been horrific. So I'm not going to let one data point change my mind on him so far.
You can almost say Miami's in letdown after beating Clemson too, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
good point.
there you go.
Yep.
There you go. Old Dominion at James Madison. James Madison's minus 20. It's James Madison or nothing for me, but I'm not up to that number. I know that.
Yeah, huge mismatch. James Madison, one of the best teams at getting after the quarterback in the entire country. Old Dominion's one of the worst at protecting the quarterback. So that's as big of a mismatch as you see in college football.
There it is. And so that's going to be fun to watch. Could be an absolute devastation. Plus, James Madison's just playing like they're playing furious because they want to show the world that they're going to go undefeated and should be in the even. They're probably even saying college football playoff, but they want to look like, look, we're undefeated and no one's beating us. We'll say that they can't wait to the end of the season. So yeah, I'm not fading James Madison.
You know what I'd like to see in your neck of the woods? Like, bar stools, like, anti-establishment. Why don't they just say, screw the NCAA, invite like James Madison to a bowl game or something like that?
They should make their own game. They'd have to pay two sides and figure it out. I would wonder if their opponent would be upset for pissing off their conference or their NCAA or
That's
something.
true. Good point. There's so much politics with it. It's just ridiculous that James Madison's not going to be in the postseason this year. Really good team. Really good team last year. I can make a case that they might have been the best Sun Belt team last year.
I agree with you. I think they were, and now they're definitely there. Washington State, Arizona State's the last one before our best bets. +6 home dog. ASU almost pulls up the upset against Washington. Horrible pass interference pickup. Why would you throw it if you're picking it up when you're pulling the guy back? You think money don't control this thing? Jesus, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, should have won that game. Not only the pass interference, they missed a couple field goals, stopped on downs, a 90-yard pick six. Oh my goodness. I mean, that was a 4-touchdown underdog that probably should have won outright. Nothing fluky there. Fluky that they didn't win. They're playing better, Arizona State. I got to tell you, I mean, I was ready to throw Washington State in the trash after their Arizona performance, but I thought they played pretty hard. I just watched that game against Oregon. They didn't look like they quit on the season. So game I'll find a lot about both teams.
I will too. Home dog or nothing for me for
Yep.
ASU, but I'm not touching it. I'm just going to let that one play out. Right, let's get into our best bet section. And I got one with a really under the radar game. It's probably a smelly, like sicko type game. Arkansas State versus Louisiana Monroe. Louisiana Monroe minus 2.5, totals 56.5. I'm just saying I like Louisiana Monroe here. It's my best bet. They have a small net yard per play advantage over Arkansas State of 0.25, but they're at home and neither offense is all that good. But man, ULM has had the rougher situation, in my opinion, opening up with App State, whom they lost to by 1 point, South Alabama, who we just talked about, Texas State losing by 1, which is a much improved Texas State team, and Georgia Southern, So you look at Arkansas State, the hardest conference game they had was against Troy. They played the bottom feeders, Southern Miss, and those, and they lost by over 30 points. Now, Monroe's defense, better against the run, and their offense is much better at running the ball. 4.7 yards per rush to 4.1. Arkansas State's going to try to throw a ball around, but I mean, coaching, I'll take Terry Bowden over Butch Jones all day, man. This is just a Butch Jones fade situation, in my opinion. This is about time ULM gets this conference win. They need it. I have the Warhawks 6.25. I'll take minus 2.5 for 3 stars.
Yeah, I made it 3, so I'm with you. I think that's the right side. Again, change one play in one game. If they somehow beat Texas State or somehow beat App State. App State, I believe in that game, kicked a 50-some yard field goal in the final play to win. So, I mean, what's the chances of that? College kickers. So, yeah, I would say value certainly on the ULM side. You get total agreement with me there.
Good stuff, man. What is your best bet for this show?
I'm going to go with a super big underdog here. We're going to take Vanderbilt plus 24.5. Vanderbilt team that's lost 6 straight games coming into this one. But I'll tell you what, they are 6-0 to this number because in those 6 losses, none of them were by more than 24 points. And I think they needed, after playing 8 straight weeks, a bye. They got one. They finally got rested up, got a little healthier, although they're going to be missing. It looks like maybe their leading tackler. So that's a concern a little bit. It's also a concern that Lane Kiffin knows the point spread. So there's certainly a concern there because he's not afraid to tack one on. But I just think Vandy will be a little feisty. They were feisty in their last game prior to it, losing by 17 to Georgia. And that game, Georgia scored last. That was a 10-point game there with about 5 minutes left in the game. So I think they haven't given up on the season. I do like Clark Lee. This was the time of year last year where they pulled a couple of major outright upsets, went on the road and beat Kentucky as a big dog, beat Florida outright as a big dog. Don't need him to win, just need him to lose by 24 or less. Let's take Vanderbilt. No, a team nobody wants to bet.
I love it. That's a ton of points right there in this situation. Is Ken Seals the quarterback or AJ Swan? I know Swan was banged up.
They're going to move forward with Seals. He's protected the ball. Now, he doesn't give them maybe that juice that a healthy AJ Swan would, but AJ Swan's not been healthy all year. And Seals, certainly, and Clark Lee said this, he's protected the football more. That's big when you got a big underdog. I don't need you helping out the team and throwing 3-4 picks here. So only 2 interceptions for him. He's just been the more efficient quarterback this year with Swan being less than 100%. So they're moving forward for the rest of the year with Seals, it looks like.
Well, there you go. And his numbers look a lot better right now than Swan's anyway, coming into the season. Gosh, he's it's a big difference. I just had the numbers up. So here I am tripping over myself. Let's see here. Vanderbilt passing situation. He is 61.9% to Swan's 53.8%. 8 TDs, 2 interceptions. Swan had 11 TDs and 7 interceptions. So a little bit better so far. And, I know they have some wide receivers banged up, but there should be some other kids that can catch a ball on Vanderbilt. Ole Miss, probably a flat spot in my opinion for them. Coming off the Auburn game, this was a game where had a lot of backstory, being that everyone thought Lane Kiffin was going to go to Auburn. So it's almost like a letdown spot for them at Vandy, a really sneaky one. I'm on it with you, buddy. I'm taking it as well. Let's do it. I'm loving it. Great play. What else is great is you coming on this show, talking to our listeners and being such a great friend of the show. And we really appreciate it here. Where could our listeners get your wonderful information and plays, Brad?
You follow me on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it these days. You kids are calling it these days. Brad Power 7 is that handle there. Brad Power 7. If you like what you see there, you can hop on over to the old school website, bradpowersports.com.
Make sure you check out bradpowersports.com. Brad is a very busy man. Huge thanks again, Brad, for coming on. Really appreciate everything. And we'll be texting and tweeting this weekend.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having me.